things literature.
So let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Intan.
I'm Hanis.
I'm Aina,
I'm Shahid.
and let's proceed to the video. Okay?
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel, and today we are going to continue from our first video, which called American Lost Generations, which talks about John Dos Passos and Malcom Cowley.
If you haven't seen that one, go watch it first in the description. So now should we start?
Wait. Okay.
It's our turn to present. You guys can rest.
Alright.
We can handle from
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
No worries.
So, should we continue to the video?
Shall we?
So in the past video, we talked about the authors' lives and their works, as well as philosophy and achievements. But is there any point of convergence between the two? Yes, there are. So firstly, shared generational experience. Both Dos Passos and Cowley were part of the lost generation, a term popularized by Gertrude Stein to describe a group of American writers who came of age during or immediately after World War I. The experience profoundly shaped their worldview and their literary output. They witnessed the disillusionment and societal changes of the era, which informed their critical perspectives on American society and their search for new forms of expression. Adding to that, they spent time in Paris, particularly in the left bank neighborhood of Montparnasse in the 1920s. Cafes like La Rotonde and La Closerie des Lilas were popular gathering spots where writers, artists, and intellectuals would meet, discuss ideas, and work. It was a hub for American expatriate writers seeking new forms of expression, and Cowley's book Exile's Return chronicles this generation's experiences, including their time in Paris. So next is similar education background, study at Harvard. They share a connection through Harvard University and their participation in the lost generation. Harvard education, especially for John Dos Passos, he graduated from Harvard University in 1916. While there, he befriended E. Cummings, who was also a part of the lost generation and was influenced by Imagist poetry. Malcom Cowley, however, matriculated at Harvard in 1915, although he later withdrew to serve as an ambulance driver in World War I, eventually graduating Phi Beta Kappa in 1920. After that, critical relationship between Malcom Cowley and John Dos Passos is Malcom Cowley was also one of the most intelligent and appreciative critics of John Dos Passos' work, particularly his USA trilogy, and even though their political views diverge at times. And lastly, since both shared education background, similar in Harvard, they also shared literary circles and friendships. While they may not have been close friends during their time in Harvard, due to slight differences in attendance and social circles, they moved in similar literary circles and became well acquainted in the post-World War I expatriate scene in Paris. Cowley in particular became a prominent chronicler of the lost generation, a group of writers and artists that included both himself and Dos Passos, who were profoundly affected by their experiences in World War I and sought new forms of expression. So next point of convergence is ambulance drivers during the war. Both John Dos Passos and Malcom Cowley volunteered to become ambulance drivers during World War I. For soldiers who were wounded in the first few weeks of World War I, the first responders were often the ambulance units. the ambulance drivers would drive their wagons and carriages up to the front lines to transport the wounded back to the safety of the nurses and doctors in the triages. Sounds easy enough, right? But with artillery continually improving in range and accuracy, battlefield triages and hospitals will move further back behind the front than they had been in previous wars. There's always a looming fear in the duty, especially when they had to transport the wounded to the hospitals. So in response, ambulance services enlisted the help of automobiles. The first use of motorized ambulance in World War I can be traced to the Richard Norton, who organized the first modern ambulance corps in October 1914, just months after the outbreak of the war. With its continual use of motorized ambulance, Norton's American Volunteer Motor Ambulance Corps revolutionized ambulance duties on the front. There's a whole history of these ambulance drivers in America, and it's an interesting part of history. So I didn't want to elaborate this much further as it is a long one. So I just put the link in the description if you want to know more about it. So moving on, ambulance drivers tended to understand the war differently from infantry in other ways as well. William Edward Wotruba, an undergraduate student at Michigan, noted that shelling from German artillery posed a constant threat for ambulance drivers, both while on the road and at triages. The ambulance drivers did, however, glean a view of the battlefield and perhaps the whole of the Western Front, and most infantry could not possibly see. So it is no secret that many American ambulance drivers became famous writers, actors, and also artists after the war, including Malcom Cowley and John Dos Passos. Many ambulance drivers turned to writing memoirs and novels, and diaries of their experiences were often long, poetic, and descriptive. The nature of their service, the tendency to be educated youths, and their bird's eye view of the battlefield may have inspired artistic responses. Many of them continued to influence the public's understanding of the war through literary works such as Passos, USA 1919, which were critical of the war's seemingly needless bloodshed. And for most ambulance drivers, the war represented not only an opportunity in their careers, but also a chance to help their country and emotional experience that would continue to shape them for years after the war, which connects to the next point. Next is the themes. Their works often explored similar themes, particularly those related to the social and political landscape of the 20th century. They both depicted a sense of disillusionment with traditional values and institutions in the wake of rapid industrialization, urbanization, and war. Both men were also concerned with issues of alienation, the struggles of the working class, and the impact of economic and political upheaval. Because of this, they both sought to understand and critique these forces in their own ways and approaches. Firstly, both John Dos Passos and Malcom Cowley were profoundly marked by a pervasive sense of disillusionment throughout their lives and careers, a theme that permeates their literary output and critical reflections. And some of these consist of generational trauma. Both men experienced the defining trauma of their generation, which irrevocably altered their perception of the world and the institutions that govern it. Due to them being ambulance drivers during World War I, they got first-hand experience of the looming danger of death in transporting the wounded, the scene of casualties in the battlefield, as well as the stories told by the wounded of what they witnessed happen in battles, like deaths of comrades right in front of their eyes. Another is critique of modernity. They both express profound disillusionment with the direction of modern society, characterized by rapid industrialization, urbanization, and a pervasive sense of alienation. Though they were becoming wealthier, they often had a sense of loneliness in them that material possessions could not fulfill. Failed ideals, whether it was the promise of a glorious war, the American dream of prosperity, or the utopian vision of radical politics, both Dos Passos and Cowley witnessed and documented the crushing of these ideals. Next is search for meaning. Their disillusionment was not merely passive despair, but often fueled a relentless search for truth, authenticity, and a viable path forward, even if that path remained elusive. This can be like the search for identity, search of a place in a community, and so on. And lastly, social and political engagement. Both writers were deeply engaged with the social and political issues of their era. They shared a youthful radicalism and a concern for the common person, particularly in the face of economic hardship and social injustice. Dos Passos, known for his critical view of American capitalism in the USA trilogy, and Cowley, a literary critic and advocate for left-wing causes in the 1930s, used their writings to explore the complexities of American society. To conclude, why are they important?
Now let's talk about John Dos Passos' significant works. So his significant works, like USA Trilogy 1937, it was his most important work that portrays a panoramic view of American society during the early 20th century. He introduced innovative narrative technique like newsreels, camera eye passages, and biographical sketches of public figures, according to Pizer 1988. So these methods broke from traditional storytelling and helped define literary modernism in America. Other than that, he also contributed by brought together politics, literature, and form to critique American capitalism and social inequality. According to Bradbury 1991, his documentary style influenced later writers like Norman Mailer, E.L. Doctorow, and Don DeLillo. Now, how did his legacy lies to American literature and the world of literature? Even though he isn't a well-known writer like Ernest Hemingway, he still had a big impact. According to Lehan 2005, he changed the way novels were written by trying out new styles, and he used his stories to talk about important political and social issues. His books helped inspire later writers who wanted to write about real-world problems but in a creative way. Now let's talk about the last person, which is Malcom Cowley. His significant work, like Exile Written 1934, which is a mix of personal memories and commentary. In it, he talks about American writers who moved to Paris after World War I. The book helped create the idea of lost generation and was one of the first to explain why that group of writers was important to American culture and identity. He was not only a writer but also a powerful editor, especially at Viking Press. He played a key role in reviving interest in William Faulkner through the Portable Faulkner 1946, which is an anthology that helps cement Faulkner's reputation in American literature. He also supported new voices like Jake Kerouac and Ken Kesey, helping bridge modernist and postmodernist generations. Cowley's legacy is remembered for two important roles, like he told the story of American lit and helps preserve it. His ideas helped make certain authors famous and respected, and as an editor, he supported younger writers like those from the Beat generation, early in their careers, according to Brodsky 1995. So in conclusion, together, Cowley and Dos Passos are pillars of American literary history. Dos Passos broke boundaries in storytelling and exposed the failures of American ideals, while Cowley preserved, interpreted, and expanded the American literary canon. Their work continues to influence how literature is written, edited, and studied today.
So, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching.
As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Thank you
Thank you for watching.